We are back. This is episode number 85 of Kalibrated with Scott. I'm Scott, of course. As you could probably tell by the title, there was a extremely large missile strike last night on Ukraine by the Russians. It was one of the largest of the war, in my personal opinion. I think the effects of the missile strike were some of the most significant of the war. And we're just going to go do a deep dive on what happened, look at some of the flights of the missiles, and just kind of talk about the strike in general, just so you guys can get a better idea of what's going on in Ukraine and how these attacks end up taking place. So I'm going to take us over to my Twitter right here. All right. So I know it might be kind of hard for you guys to see. So I'm going to explain it very clearly. This is a summary of the approximate movement of the missiles and drones across the airspace of Ukraine for March 22nd, 2024. Just so you guys are aware, this was the second strike in 2 days. The first strike was claimed by the Ukrainians to have a 100% interception rate. No targets were hit. I don't believe that. I have evidence to show the contrary. But for this video, we'll only be talking about the second strike day, which was undoubtedly successful for the Russians, and their targets were achieved. So just this, here's the legend. You guys can go back and look at this if you want. I'm going to leave it up for a second. Red equals X-101, which are the air-launched cruise missiles fired by Tu-95 strategic bombers over the Caspian Sea, usually. We have Shahid, which are the drones. That's what this stands for in the Cyrillic alphabet, is basically drones. Caliber is the sea-launched cruise missiles. X-39 or X-59 are air-launched by multiple different platforms. X-22 are launched by the Tu-22 backfire bombers. Daggers are launched by MiG-31s. This is also known as a Kinjal. That's probably what I will call it. X-31s, again, another air-launched missile. Orlan 10 is a UAV, and then ballistics are orange. Pay very close attention to the ballistic missiles because they have a great significance in these strikes. All right, so I'm going to go back now to the map of what happened here. All right, so as you can see from the beginning, the Shahids began entering Ukrainian airspace from the south. They come up through the Kiev region. I believe that they are launched in the Kiev region. They say that they're launched over here, but I don't know if I necessarily believe that. They very well could be, but I believe that they're launched from, Crimea, not Kiev, the Crimea region. They then travel. This is hours before the missile strike happens. So these drones fly all over Ukraine. They don't particularly hit very many targets. Sometimes they land in Odessa. They do have targeting, but really what these are meant to do is scout air defense, radar, looking for holes in radar zones, and exposing AD. So that's what the drones do. They're very, very important. We will always see Russian missile strikes, Russian missile strikes, begin with a massive launch of Garand 2 drones. At any given time yesterday, for probably 6 to 7 hours, there were 30 of these drones flying over Ukraine in different regions, posing different threats, and then they were either they hit their target or they're shot down. But the cost ratio for Ukraine to shoot these down, especially with manpads or air defense missiles, it's just not worth it. So that's the goal of these drones, is to draw out air defense and just cause some general chaos. And when these air defense crews are working for hours and hours on end, they end up making mistakes eventually, right? And so this is a way to wear down the Ukrainian air defense units, and then the missile strikes follow right after. Next, we have the launch of the X-101, which is the advanced Russian cruise missile. These missiles have heat traps, or flares, if you will, that confuse air defense when these missiles are on final approach to their targets. These missiles are always launched over the Caspian Sea, but they enter through different regions. So some of these missiles, as you can tell, entered through the south. Some of these missiles entered through the north. This is the bulk of the attack. This is the primary missile launch. Like, this is what everybody focuses on. These missiles are the ones that are very good at evading air defense, and they are really what are the most dangerous to Ukraine, especially the western part of Ukraine. The more safe area of Ukraine is very vulnerable to these cruise missiles. Like that, these are the only missiles that can actually make it to this area of Ukraine. So this is what the Ukrainians are often the most worried about. But what these missiles do, in my personal opinion, they do have targets. We did see the Dnipro Dam in Zaporozhye get hit, which is responsible for 10% of Ukraine's energy infrastructure. That hit was done via both ballistic missiles, I believe, and X-101 or KH-101 is how the Russians say it. I'm just saying X-101 so you guys can look down at the little legend and be able to understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, so the dam was struck multiple times. If you want to see pictures or images of that, I will not be showing them in this video specifically because this video will be demonetized if I do that. Anytime you show POV from civilians, basically, your video gets demonetized. So I'm not going to show that here, but if you want, you can go find my Telegram or my Twitter. I will put both of those links in the description. You can go see all the footage from this event. And if you want to see the footage and me explain it, check out my live streams, because my live stream that I'm doing today, this video will probably be released tomorrow. It's currently Friday. I will go over all of that footage, and that video will get demonetized, but that's okay because that's the one I'm going to do it in. So be sure to go check that out. It should be live stream number 35. But anyway, back to what we were talking about. So on top of that, we have Tu-22 backfire bombers over the Sea of Azov. They come in, they fire their KH-22 missiles, which are huge missiles, massive. Those targeted Dnipro, Prototsk, Zaporozhye, and some other areas in the east of the country. We had a series of ballistic missile strikes on Kharkov between 15 and 20. Kharkov is currently without electricity totally. This missile strike was very, very different from other missile strikes. If you remember back in 2022, the Russians began a concerted campaign against Ukrainian energy infrastructure on the back of the Kerch Bridge being destroyed. That campaign did not target power generation as much as I initially thought it would have. Definitely not as much as the West thought that the Russians would have. They definitely came in with a soft hand. This missile strike targeted multiple energy generation facilities in Ukraine. I believe during the winter of 2022, Kharkov power plant was hit. Kiev, the number 5 power plant in Kiev was hit, and the power plant in Kryvyi Rog was also struck. Last night, we had the hydroelectric plant in Zaporozhye get struck, energy infrastructure in Kharkov, energy infrastructure in Vinnytsia, Cherkasy, Sumy, Chernigov, Odessa, and Nikolaev. Oh, and Kryvyi Rog. So this was a much, much larger strike. The Russians claimed that it was in retaliation for the recent oil refinery strikes. And some people are saying the recent incursions into Belgorod. I don't agree with that. I don't think that this was retaliation at all. Like I've said the whole time, I believe that these missile strikes are very planned out. I believe that they serve a military purpose in the future, specifically with logistics. You can tell that the Russians are mapping out Ukrainian logistics and making it incredibly hard. Remember, as I said, the Dnipro Dam in Zaporozhye, which is funny, it's just on the Dnieper River, so that's why they call it that. Because there is a place called Dnipropetrovsk where you'd think the Dnipro Dam would be, but it's not. That dam was responsible for 10% of Ukraine's energy production pre-war. Ukraine has not increased their energy production in any way. So, they can no longer use that 10%. plus the damage that was sustained through the previous campaign. A lot of it was not repaired. They actually reroute energy through different means. Some of it has been repaired, but definitely not all of it. So again, this is the beginning of another energy campaign to disrupt Ukrainian logistics ahead of what I would consider to be a potential Russian offensive in the east. It also it makes command and control more difficult. It makes everything more difficult. So this is a step up for the Russians away from what I would consider like an SMO posture and more into a actual war posture. All right, and then to finish this off, on top of all of these different missiles, at random times, MiG-31Ks will go airborne in Russia proper. They will fly to launch points over Belgorod or Kursk, at which point they will fire hypersonic missiles. One hit Dnipropetrovsk, and one was claimed to hit, I don't actually know where the claim is out here, but another, what the Russians would probably consider a decision-making center, was hit out in Western Ukraine. So these are very, very important strikes. These missiles are not commonly used. We don't know how many were fired. There were multiple MiGs. I think 6 MiGs were up at that was the peak of the missile strike, was 6 MiGs airborne. So potentially 6 hypersonic Kinjal missiles were fired on Ukraine. But as of right now, we don't know. The damage was extensive. We saw probably 5 to 8 missiles hit the hydroelectric plant in Zaporozhye, as I talked about. We saw massive fires in Kharkov. There seems to be some form of evacuation currently taking place in Kharkov because the power is out. A lot of people are leaving. There's fears that Kharkov, an offensive down into the Kharkov region, are going to begin with the recent Sumy Belgorod incursions and Russia talking about a sanitary zone. So this could very well be a way that the Russians clear these areas of civilians as well, so that they can begin more aggressively targeting Ukrainian military and not putting civilians at risk. That's just my interpretation of it. That could be totally wrong, and this could only have to do with logistics and everything. But yeah, a concerted campaign against Ukrainian energy infrastructure. Of course, it comes at the end of winter, but the thing about electricity is you need it all year round, especially when you're heavily reliant on rail transport, when you're already struggling logistically, when you're already struggling to move reserves around. This is just another thorn in the Ukrainian side and another straw that is aiding in breaking this camel's back. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys got something out of it. If you like this video, please comment, like, and subscribe. It's the easiest way you guys can help me out. Please spread this video if you don't mind. If you know somebody that would benefit from it, send it to them. That's always very helpful. And be sure to check me out on Telegram and Twitter, as well as make it over to my live streams where I have a good time communicating with a lot of you guys. Thank you so much and have a great day. Goodbye.